This is Passengers United.
All right, everyone. Good evening. My name is Charlton D'Souza. I'm the president of Passengers United. We have gotten so many complaints over the last few months, and we have been so involved in the Queen's bus redesign. And I can tell you the MTA has done a horrible job with the bus redesign. And we've received petitions from so many of you. We've received letters. So I know, let's talk about Roosevelt Island first with the Q102 bus. So we've gotten so many petitions saying that the Q102 bus needs to be kept the way it should be kept. It should not be changed over. And so we support that because there's overwhelming demand and a response, not only from the Roosevelt Island community, but from the people who work at Kohler Hospital and the surrounding community. They do not want to go to Sunnyside. So we support keeping the 102. In fact, even with the Q10 out in Southeast Queens, they're talking about changing that bus. The MT wanted to, shortchange it.
Every morning, Nia Rollins heads to the Q10 bus stop to begin her commute. But soon, she may have to find another way to get to work.
Because right now the bus goes this way.
Yeah.
And they plan to completely remove this whole route back here.
It's all part of a sweeping bus network redesign proposed by the MTA for faster transit. But in South Ozone Park, neighbors say the elimination of key stops is a problem, not a solution.
You're making people go from one bus to either 2 or 3 buses. For what reason? It doesn't make sense to me.
Added transfers mean added fare, and bus consolidation could bring even more crowding during rush hour. Queens covers more land area than any other borough by far. And in a place where subway stops can be few and far between, buses are a lifeline.
This proposed plan will create a transportation desert in southern Queens.
At the March meeting for Community Board 10, locals told MTA representatives that they depend on the Q10 to get to JFK and the subway, deeming alternate routes unsafe and unreliable.
It will be a terrible hardship to the people in the community. I think it's going to be a financial burden.
When we reached out to the MTA for comment, a spokesperson said, in part, we encourage members of the public to continue to provide feedback.
It feels like lip service, sure.
District Leader Richard David says the MTA lost the neighborhood's trust when it removed a bus stop without warning last summer. Met with outrage, the MTA vowed to reinstate it, but has not yet done so.
To just keep an eye on the MTA and their process and the potential that they might pull a fast one is a full-time job.
Facing an ambiguous timeline for potential changes, neighbors here will keep waiting for the bus, hoping it continues to show up.
And we support the community in keeping the Q10 and that they should not have to take another bus. That would be a disaster for the community. As you all know, we're very upset with the way the process transpired. I can tell you I was screamed at by MTA officials many times. We were giving out flyers at one event, and the MT came up to us and said, we cannot give out flyers about the bus redesign. So these were the things that were happening in the community, but despite everything that happened, we still went out there, we still gave flyers. So here's our stance on the Queen's bus redesign. The team and I have spoken, and we've reached a decision that the Queen's bus redesign should be extended till November, the outreach process. Now, why do I say that? Because one, we don't know what the outcomes are going to be from congestion pricing. And I feel that any final plan has to incorporate the new ridership patterns, the new demands, changes, because I have a feeling that a lot of the new congestion pricing users who will be using the MT bus system will probably be doing it either before the rush hour in the early mornings, or they're going to be taking the buses later in the evenings. So we feel that there needs to be more bus service after rush hour, in the tail ends, before the rush hour and after the rush hour. And also we need more service to LIRR stations, and we need a combined city ticket. And this is something I've been saying to the MTE, that if somebody has a city ticket, they're using it on the railroad, they should be able to just show it to the bus driver and get on the bus. We need to do things differently, and right now the MT is not willing to, negotiate or cooperate with a weekly city ticket. I have issues with that. But I'm not happy with the way the bus redesign is, because for some people who used to take a bus and a subway, they're now going to have to take either 2 buses to a subway, and that doesn't help things. So we need, across the line, a bus redesign needs to be faster, better, quicker, and easier. And it should actually be at the same time as a car. So if, one of the things, guys, that we learned during the Queen's bus redesign, and I want to thank Jack Narenberg, we've been watching a documentary and learning about equity. We even incorporated it into our Passengers United volunteer training.
The specific ways in which equity should be measured are dependent on each situation. However, the same guiding principles should be kept throughout. First, as Anna Gartzman, Director of Strategic Research of the MBTA, says, put the equity measures on the same plane as everything else. Define the populations of interest, which will be subjective for each situation, as well as the impacts that transportation planning, policy, and operation decisions would have on those populations. Focus on both the short-term and long-term impacts and goals. The short-term goals should be about harm reduction, while the long-term goals should focus on building a better system. For any initiative, follow these steps. Before beginning the initiative, clearly define its objectives. Determine who the populations of interest, the transit-critical populations, are. This changes based on the context. Only then, measure how the objective of the initiative would be satisfied for each population. Specify any vague terms. Understand that the answer for one population may, and will most likely, be different than that of another. Also, understand that, while one population may be in the minority, their needs bear at least the same importance as the needs of the majority, especially if they are more vulnerable. Do not undermine the needs of the minority because they are in the minority. Let's use the redesign of a bus network to illustrate how this process of measuring equity should be done. Before beginning the initiative, clearly define its objectives. The goal of a bus network redesign is to improve bus service. Determine who the populations of interest, the transit-critical populations, are. In the context of redesigning a bus network, the transit-critical populations are people of color, people in low-income households, seniors, and people with disabilities. Only then, measure how the objective of the initiative would be satisfied for each population. What would it mean to have better bus service for blank? Fill in the blank for each population individually. So you would answer, what would it mean to have better bus service for people of color? And so on. Specify any vague terms. What does better mean in the context of redesigning a bus network? A better network is competitive with car travel. Then answer the question of what that means for each population individually. Understand that the answer for one population may, and will most likely, be different than that of another. The competitiveness formula is different for seniors and people with disabilities than it is for able-bodied people. The measurement system needs to account for what it means for transit to be competitive for these groups, even if those with disabilities make up less of the total population. All throughout, make sure to properly engage and empathize with the public and, particularly, the populations of interest to gather data.
Because equity is so important. I can't stress that enough. And so Jack had asked the MTA at the bus redesign, the bus outreach workers, what metrics of equity were being incorporated into the Queen's bus redesign. And they couldn't answer the question. They couldn't even answer the damn questions.
The MTA's priorities for the Queen's bus network redesign are in the wrong place. They've been in the wrong place from day one. They were in the wrong place for the Bronx bus network redesign.
Just the sight of the bus usually means you're on your way.
Oh, it hasn't come by.
Now imagine you're waiting and the bus never comes, or when it does, it skips the stop.
Right now.
Where's the bus?
People who live in Monhaven or on Willis Avenue that have to catch this bus, they walk down 143rd Street to get the bus here. Okay? MTA now wants us to walk 6 blocks to 149th Street to get on the bus. These are really long blocks.
What's happening is we're inconveniencing a population in the community that really relies on this bus.
The accessibility wasn't part of the plan. We have a lot of seniors in our community that if they were included in this plan and they were engaged in the plan, they would have known that this wasn't the bus stop to take away.
This bus stop is still not been restored by the MTA. We're trying to get this bus stop reinstated. So,
can you see seniors with walkers and wheelchairs or anybody standing there waiting for a bus?
But now the bus is back.
That goes to show how when we work together, we get things done. We got our bus stop back.
It also should be a lesson to any city agency or any organization that wants to do something in our community or make any changes to come and talk to the people directly.
And as a result, is projected to be an absolute disaster. And here's one of the main reasons why it's going to be a disaster. First of all, the original intention of the Queens Bus Network redesign was to improve the commutes of Queens bus riders, especially those who ride it every day and rely on the buses to live and work. And unfortunately, the needs of the ridership have not been properly factored into the plan. They were not properly factored in from the beginning. They were not properly factored in during the Bronx plan, and we saw what happened in the Bronx. And as a result, because the needs of the ridership are not factored in properly, we're going to see disastrous results for everyday commuters in Queens, and particularly our most vulnerable riders. When I spoke to some of the people on the redesign team, there's an open house a month ago, and I went over there and I was speaking to them. And one of the questions that I asked them was, how are you incorporating equity into the redesign plan? They told me that at the end of the plan, we're going to do an equity analysis afterwards to make sure that the plan that we have is equitable, conforms to the standards. Well, okay, that's a red flag. You should have done this from the beginning, but let's go along with that. I then asked them, what metrics are you using to evaluate equity? You know what they said? Well, we don't know. We'll figure that out as we go along. Okay, that's an immediate red flag right there. You should have had this figured out from the beginning. Because if you don't have it figured out from the beginning, your priorities are off, and as a result, everything you do from that point is going to be a mess, an absolute mess. And you're going to end up with the wrong results. You're going to end up with a plan that's going to be doing no good because you're not factoring the needs of the people in from the get-go. If you screw it up from the start, you're going to have a plan that you can't fix later on. And let me get into the elimination of bus stops as well. That's been an ongoing issue. It was an issue in the Bronx plan. It's a major issue with this plan. We're still seeing gaps that are 6 to 7 blocks apart. What's that going to do for people with mobility issues, senior citizens, people with medical conditions who can't walk farther than they're walking right now, people in transit deserts who you're taking away bus service from? You kidding me? And all they're evaluating that with is the bus speeds. The problem is, while it may be okay to take away bus stops for certain people, maybe those who are able-bodied, it's not going to work for those who aren't able-bodied and aren't like the people who are designing it. You can't just say, oh, it works for me, so it works for everyone else. No, the world does not work that way. So the plan is going to be a disaster. They should have had their priorities set from day one. They should have had their equity metrics set from day one. And as a result, if this is not settled already, if this is not going to be settled in the final plan, it's going to be settled in court. I'm just warning them right now that we're going to settle in court afterwards. But yeah, that's all I'm going to say. So what needs to happen is the MTA really needs to start reconsidering their priorities for the redesign plan. They have to really go through the proper process of evaluating equity, measuring equity, determining what it means for people to have better service from all demographic groups, because they're all going to have individual needs and individual necessities, priorities, individual preferences. You need to evaluate each of them individually, not as a whole. And furthermore, they need to understand that the only evidence that I'm getting of them using customer feedback is when I'm hearing that, oh, the majority said this, so therefore we're going to go for that. The problem is they're only relying on the quantitative data alone and not the qualitative data. Who they are, who are these people, who's in the minority, are they disadvantaged, how are we accommodating for them? And that's what they should be asking themselves, because this plan is clearly not equitable. If they ran the equity test from anyone else other than their own department, which I think is going to result in a big conflict of interest, it's not going to pass. It's not going to pass the test. Their equity analysis, they need to be transparent about what metrics they're going to be using, and they really should be using the metrics that are standard for equity. It's ridiculous what I'm seeing. Okay.
So, Jack, in the Bronx bus redesign, we saw that a lot of bus stops were eliminated, like at the Patterson houses, where the blocks were 9 blocks apart, the bus stop, and people were disenfranchised. What do you say to the people that in the Bronx, when they did the bus redesign, unfortunately, people are waiting longer because many bus trips are canceled because there's not enough bus drivers? How does this play into the bus redesign, and how do you think this will affect Queens, Brooklyn, and Manhattan moving forward, and even Staten Island?
I think it's going to be an absolute disaster. It's already a problem right now. We have bus driver shortages, we have gaps in the schedules, and we are seeing some bus routes that are actually going to be receiving less service. And some of those bus routes are in disenfranchised areas, disenfranchised neighborhoods, communities that are already underserved by public transit are going to be even less served under this redesign plan. It is unacceptable. We will not tolerate it. And to be fair, to be clear, my conclusion from this entire initiative, because the MTA clearly can't answer the tough questions that they should have been asking themselves from the get-go, and any advocate should have been asking these questions. And it's a real shame that we're hearing none of this from anyone else. Our conclusion is that this plan was just a waste of taxpayer money, and they should reevaluate this and start fresh, because if you don't have your priorities set from day one and you continue down that same trajectory, it's going to be much more difficult getting off of it and starting properly.
So, Jack, what do you say to people? Because the MTA could say that we've done our research, we've done everything.
They haven't done everything.
But we've been out there, guys. We've been talking to a lot of people.
All they do is they do these open houses. They try to, they don't really, fortunately, I saw them actually writing concerns down, but it's not guaranteed what they're going to do with those concerns. When you don't ask the proper questions from day one and you don't actually make any effort to institutionalize equity, you're going to get a disaster like this.
But how does congestion pricing and the extended ridership play into this? And obviously, I made a statement, and you agree, and the whole Passengers United team agrees that the Queens Bus Redesign final report should be released sometime next year, and the current Queens Bus Redesign outreach should not end in the summer. It should continue till November, so we can gauge what the new ridership is from congestion pricing.
I was actually the one who suggested initially that the Queens Bus Network Redesign outreach continue until at least November, because then you have more data to work with. If you end that period sooner, you have less to work with, and if you have a smaller sample size, you're not going to get accurate results. So extend it to at least November, so that you can actually have enough data to actually work with and incorporate into the plan. You don't really establish those ridership patterns immediately. Just because congestion pricing starts doesn't mean we have a definitive pattern on day one. So that's something that needs to be evaluated over time.
Also, people are telling me that many passengers on the buses are saying they don't even know about the Queens bus redesign because many of them, and guys, this is just a human thing. When you see posters on a bus, everybody ignores it because there's like 50 posters on the bus. Nobody's paying attention. But do you feel that the MTA should have been on each bus giving riders a survey card to comment on how the proposed bus redesign or how the change to that particular bus route that they're riding would affect them? And do you think that that would have been a more effective use of the money, having traffic checkers or people on every bus? Let's say if they did the Q110 or they did the Q10 limited or the Q10 local that goes to GFK Airport, or even the Q102. Do you think every bus rider on every bus should have been surveyed?
Ideally, that would have been the case. I mean, I do see that they're putting in advertisements on their information screens, but it's only on a few buses. I mean, it's on the majority of them at this point, but it's not on all of them. And at the same time, just because you see it doesn't mean you're going to act. And what bus riders really need is not just information about what's happening, but how they can get involved. This plan is supposed to be designed with them in mind, and clearly, if they don't have a means of actually participating in this redesign initiative and just letting the bus routes change without their input, then it's not going to have the effect that it's supposed to have. And I have a feeling the MTA is just playing everything on the cheap. And I think their priorities are not where they're supposed to be. And if their priorities are separate from what was being promised to the ridership, that's going to be an even bigger problem.
And another thing, we mentioned the Q43 going to LIJ Hospital. What did the MTA tell us about that?
They said they didn't have the money for it. Well, at the same time, now they're considering putting in a park-and-ride bus to Red Hook, or a bus extension into Red Hook. Yes, I get it. There's another transit desert over here. Yes, there's a public housing project over there too. At the same time, their needs bear the same importance as the needs of those people in these other transit deserts who are also disenfranchised, historically been marginalized, they lack public transit access, and you can't just prioritize one community over another, especially one that is historically been disadvantaged and continues to be disadvantaged. You don't just throw them to the sideline.
And also the Q4 not being extended into Nassau County, that's been a big issue. A lot of people are upset about that. And we feel that the Q4 should be extended into Nassau County as well as an express bus. That is a transit desert over there. And so guys, even though Nassau County and Queens are two different areas, a lot of the stuff that, in the outer parts of Nassau, close to the border, you need to extend some buses. Because like one of the planners told me, just because there's a border doesn't mean that a bus route ends, right, at a border. We should be thinking beyond borders. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. Again, the intention of the bus network redesigns that Byford had in mind was to improve bus service, ease connections, and I think another one that should have been considered from the get-go was fill in gaps in public transit access and coverage. This redesign is not doing that.
And we don't even have night owl bus service.
Exactly. What's going to happen to overnight commuters who are lacking bus service and will continue to lack bus service because they're not seeing any benefits from this plan.
And guys, there's no additional service being added on the Q60, Q32 overnight. In fact, the 54, which we get a lot of complaints about, the Q54, which goes from Williamsburg Bridge Plaza to Jamaica, never shows up at night. People are waiting 45 minutes for the bus. How is that even acceptable, guys? We cannot accept what the MTA is proposing, guys. We cannot. And the MTA keeps saying that, this is a bold, ambitious plan.
A bold, ambitious plan. Look how many people were benefiting. Again, you're looking at the wrong information. You're looking at the wrong data. The data that you're using is not representative of what the people actually need. It's not representative of what your ambition was, what your goal was in the first place. So that's a serious problem. If you're going to continue down that road and continue to gaslight the people, we're not stupid. We know what's going on. We know that one of the priorities that the MTA is not publicizing is that they want to cut costs. They'd rather see, my conclusion based on conversations that I've had, that my team has had, is that they'd rather have buses running without people. Of course we're going to have a faster bus without people on it, but that's not the point of buses. They're supposed to transport people.
And another thing that I have issues with, I'm very outraged with the MTA. They keep saying that by eliminating bus stops, that the bus will go faster.
It won't,
It
because, and one of our board members, Alan Rosen, he was a former director of New York City Transit bus planning, and he actually led an initiative to redesign the Brooklyn bus network. Some of the Brooklyn bus networks the Brooklyn bus routes that we have today are his. And he concluded, and he's been doing this for decades. He's retired at this point. And he concluded that many of the bus stops that have low ridership, if there's no one there, the bus just passes right through. So there's no real added benefit to eliminating the bus stops. And what happens to those bus stops that are not eliminated, you're going to see an influx of people, and you're not really saving time anyway, because more people, it takes more time to board the buses. So you're not saving time. Any time that you would have saved by having a faster trip between bus stops, you're not really saving at all. And especially with the DOT and Transportation Alternatives initiatives to lower the speed limits, that's going to affect the buses too. You just want to slow them down and have an excuse to eliminate the bus stops.
20 miles, guys, doesn't work, guys. It's horrible for the bus drivers.
It doesn't work on streets that have 2 lanes, 3 lanes. They better have a carve out for buses, because this is clearly not going to work.
So what makes buses run faster? Bus lanes, bus bulbs, right? Bus stop bulbs.
And
traffic
also,
signal priority.
Traffic signal priority, exactly. Which they were testing, and then they decided against it. I don't know what the holdup is, but at the same time, it's really important. It's of the utmost importance that the buses are serving everyone. And quite often, the buses are an alternative to the subway system, which is often inaccessible for those who have mobility issues and use mobility devices.
And also overnight. They're doing so much track work, guys, and now with congestion pricing and so many millions more people using the subway system, what we've been saying in Passengers United, you need night owl bus service so that people can get from Manhattan to Southeast Queens or Northeast Queens, or even parts of the North Bronx or the South Bronx, like the express bus does, but with a cheaper $2.90 fare or an unlimited MetroCard. You should be able to have access to that. It shouldn't be for $7. That's outrageous.
Yeah. So many other cities around the world, flat fare for those traveling anywhere in the city, including subways, buses, regional trains, anywhere you want to go. Flat fare. There are others that have distance-based fares, but it's all reasonable. A $7 fare on the express buses, especially those that serve disenfranchised communities that lack the subway service, it's not okay. It's still, and especially with the fare increase that just happened and congestion pricing, what's going to happen now? You're going to price so many more people out of the city, and it's like they want this to happen. It's like they want the displacement so that they can replace the people living in New York City with those who are more affluent and are more willing to accept these
But
changes.
what they don't realize is there's been population changes in New York. A lot of people are leaving. This congestion pricing thing is going to be a disaster. But the Bronx bus redesign had a lot of issues, guys. We've gotten a lot of complaints from Co-op City residents. And I can tell you now, we're not going to let this happen in Queens. So Jack and the team, all of us are working really hard on this. And our board members are very committed to making sure that this bus redesign is done right. But like you said, what does the public need to do, Jack, from now through till the end of the bus redesign thing in November that we're asking for? What should our residents, passengers be doing?
Yeah, I really hope that this is a wake-up call for you to get involved immediately. We put the resources on our website. We're here to help you. You got to actually do your part and learn more about the redesign plan, what they're doing, and look at your particular bus stops, your routes, your commuting patterns, and look at what they're doing, how that's going to change under their plan, and let them know what your needs are. And when you do let them know what you want, what you need, be as specific as possible. Let them know if something's wrong, like a bus stop elimination, why it's not working for you, what you need, and what you want them to do. And be specific about the exact location, the exact route, stop, whatever it may be. Be as specific as possible, because that's how they help you. They need to know this information so that they can incorporate it into the plan. Because if you just say something like, oh, we don't like this plan, what can they do with that? So be specific and be proactive. We have the resources for you on our website. You can go right there. There's a redesign portal link right on our homepage. You can go there and all the resources are there for you. Please take advantage of it.
So, you know what? We feel at this point, just extend the bus outreach till November. Give it more time. Let's see what the patterns of congestion pricing are. Let's see if there's more people using a certain bus route. And, you know, I have issues with Southeast Queens because it seems like other portions of the borough are getting more bus service, and Southeast Queens is actually being left in some cases with less bus routes. How is that even possible? So the fact that you cannot go from Bayside in this bus redesign plan, Bayside to Far Rockaway, is a major issue. You should be able to do that on one bus. You shouldn't have to go through Jamaica to take another bus. And so a lot of hospital workers use LIG Hospital. They want a bus from LIG Hospital right to Far Rockaway. It should be a limited bus, right? So what I'm saying is, if a car, you know, takes 25 minutes to go from LIJ by the highway, you know, to Far Rockaway, that might be the nighttime. But during the day, a car would probably take like 35 to 40 minutes. But still, that's what a bus ride should take, right? Or maybe 50 minutes, maybe 10 minutes more. So we want to make sure that this bus redesign provides equity. There are parts of Astoria, at the tail ends of Astoria, that are being left out of bus service. There's portions of Long Island City where they're having issues with their bus service. Bayside is having issues. So we're not happy with this bus redesign plan. I urge all of you to read our statement on our Passengers United website about all the breakdowns of each route and how we feel about, you know, the bus redesigns. As far as the Q51, I know a lot of people wanted to go to Brooklyn. A lot of people are saying they want the Q8 capped. I agree. In fact, I actually think that the Queens buses should actually go beyond Gateway Center Mall so it can connect with the B82 Select and go down Kings Highway. We really need to rethink bus redesigns differently, guys. So, you know, we're all working really hard here at Passengers United, but unfortunately, guys, when you're dealing with bureaucracy from the MTA and then you're dealing with bureaucracy from the other organizations that obviously don't give a damn, it is concerning, guys. And the other organizations are supporting the Queens Bus Redesign Plan. In fact, at the press conference when it was announced in the winter, Riders Alliance was there supporting the plan. They're not listening to the people in the community. So I urge all of you, call your elected officials. Tell them we do not want the Queens Bus Redesign final plan released in December. We need more time. So I think right now the bus redesign planning process needs to be extended from the summer to November to incorporate the Queens Bus Redesign Plan. And a lot of people didn't attend the meetings. Bus drivers don't even know that there's a bus redesign going on. I mean, guys, I can't make this up, guys. I don't know what's going on with the transit worker unions, but the unions should have been engaged at the table. And I'm sure they were, but they're not giving this information to the actual bus drivers. And I'm going to say something to all of you. Our bus drivers, they know the roads better than any traffic planner, any bureaucrat in office. They know. Talk to the bus drivers. They'll tell you what you need to know. So again, I got mad respect for our bus drivers. They're out there working really hard. But the bus drivers are telling me, you know, how can we have a bus going to Floral Park? It makes no sense, guys. You know, some of these things with bus stop eliminations, it's going to hurt the community. How is it that we have people walking 9 blocks to a bus stop? who the hell came up with this plan? So we're working really hard, guys, but I need your support. I need all of you to call your elected officials. I need you to go out on your bus route. I need you to talk to people. And I need you to take our Passengers United volunteer training. We have a training online course. Please log on to our website. I need you to get onto the website. I need you to send us your email so we can invite you to attend the volunteer training online. You can take it at any time, but we need volunteers right now. We need to get out there. So again, guys, I think I've said enough. Thank you so much for attending our meetings. And by the way, if you want to listen to any of our meetings on the Queens Bus Redesign, go to our YouTube channel, click on live, and you'll be able to see all of our live Zoom events on the Queens Bus Redesign. Again, thank you so much on behalf of the Passengers United team and all of us working hard to serve you. I just want to thank you for your support. Have a good night. Thank you.
Thanks for watching. To stay up to date with Passengers United, please subscribe and follow us on social media. Learn more about us at passengersunited.org.